Let's wrap this bitch up, Dave.
Good, I'm done with Big Ten.
This is Gridiron 360. I'm Bill, and we are going to wrap up other names of note outside of the top 12 overall in the Big Ten with the cornerbacks. And my dog is barking at a carpenter bee. Cut that shit out. All right. The reason we stopped when we did on the last linebacker or safety one is because these guys are going to probably all get drafted, to be quite honest with you. Cornerback is a position of need. You got to have two of them just to play on the field, because nowadays with injuries and so forth, you need corners. So the first guy that we're going to talk about here, and again, this is outside of the top 12. We talked about Okudah and all those guys. Yeah. This guy is from Fort Lauderdale, a redshirt senior for the Ohio State Buckeyes, Mr. Damon Arnett, at 6 foot, $195, 30-inch arms, 9 1/8 inch hands, ran a 4.56 at the combine. He was a guy that you saw. There's a lot of tape on him. I mean, I think this is a good corner. We obviously know that Ohio State, despite whether you like how they end up in the NFL, some good, some bad, definitely puts out some cornerback prospects.
Sure, absolutely.
I think this guy will go earlier than expected. Not first round, certainly, but I definitely think potential for second. I don't think he'll get out of the third. But, again, cornerback is a value position.
Yeah, it's tough. There's so few shutdown corners in the NFL. We talk about it all the time. I mean, it's a loosely used term that really only applies to probably a handful of guys. But one thing about him is this guy is projected as more of a zone scheme guy, which makes sense because he is a good tackler. He's good at stuffing the run, which means keeping him in short area. And he's got, you can see with his 40 time, just as an example, again, I don't always think the 40 time is super reliable, but just being able to run distance routes with some of the speed at the NFL level is going to be tough for him. So playing in a shorter space, but Ohio State recruits very well. They recruit guys that, I will say this about their defenses, they're physical. They can all play physical. They can all hit. Better than your average guy in college. So this guy fits kind of the mold, but I think his speed is probably what makes him, again, they call him a zone guy, so he's going to be a scheme guy. Like, you got to have the right scheme for him, but can be very effective. And if you're taking him in the second or third round, which is where his projections are, you're expecting this guy to see the field.
Yep.
So probably a second corner, or again, playing in that scheme that is going to allow him to play in a smaller box.
Sure. But nonetheless, by just about all accounts, this guy is a top 10 cornerback coming out in this draft.
Yep.
The next two guys three guys are roughly in that 10 to 20 range. The last guy might fall a little bit out on depending on where you look, but for the most part, these the next two for sure, and maybe the third are between the 10 and 20 range in terms of corners coming out this year in this year's draft overall. This gentleman is from Elk Grove, California, a senior for the Cornhuskers out of Nebraska. 6'2", big kid. 208, 32 and a fourth on the arms, 9.5 on the hands. Mr. Lamar Jackson, not the quarterback.
Uncle Elmer's socks. He's going back into the draft.
4.58 combine. A kid that I think he'll get taken probably somewhere in your certainly not as early as Arnett. I think Arnett's kind of got some talent, but I think
he's
kid
a day three, definitely.
Yeah, day three guy. I think maybe 5th round, maybe 6th. I saw some 6 projections. Again, people might covet the size of a 6'2", 210-pound cornerback.
Yeah, this guy kind of says the same thing about zone corners. Again, playing in short area. You got to find the right scheme fit for that. Again, you start getting into scheme guys, it makes it a little bit tougher for him. What's interesting about him is he was brought out of California in high school as a safety, but he doesn't really project to be convertible back into that safety position, into a safety position. So I get wary of guys with corners. I mean, but they can't. There can be good guys, but he doesn't really have the length to me to be.
Doesn't have the length.
With the physicality. I kind of whenever I think it's really good zone corners, I think of, because I'm a Bears fan, like Charles Tillman. But Charles Tillman could actually run the field, but he could body you early, and because he didn't have the greatest speed in the world, could stay with you. I don't know that this guy does that.
Okay. All right.
I don't know that he does that. And again, that's probably why they say he's his own guy. But again, now mind you, the Bears ran a cover 2 when Charles Tillman played there, and so he played short corner and he was physical. I would have liked to seen a little bit more talk about his run stopping ability too, if you're going to play short corner.
Agreed.
And so that's kind of concerns me. And I just hear the name Lamar Jackson, and I think he's going to suffer by comparison.
Oh gosh. Sorry. All right, let's move on, because this is a guy that I personally am very interested in. I don't think he's necessarily going to go earlier, and certainly not than Arnett, maybe than Jackson, but a day 3 guy definitely, but somebody that I'm interested in because his name seems to be floating around in that last round, next to last round, where my New York Giants have a handful of picks. Okay, I know we have at least 2, I think, in the 7th. But, that's why his name's popping up. So, personally, talk to me a little bit about this kid. From Detroit, Michigan, a senior, played for the Wolverines, Mr. Lavert Hill at cornerback. 5'10", a $190, 37 1/8 on the arms, 9 1/8 on the hands. I don't have any 40s, put up 21 at the bench, but interesting to me because because this is a guy, again, when I talk about if you're watching, just sitting there watching, and I'm recalling from my memory, okay, this past year, and guys whose names were called over and over and over again, not just on highlight reels, but just on every down sets. This is a guy who I know who Lavert Hill is as a result of that. So that tells me something.
Yeah, I mean, granted, when you think about athletic positions, the Southeast kids, that's a thing that, like, the Florida schools, the Georgia schools, the Alabama schools, they have a lot of those guys, real athletic, speed to burn. Big Ten doesn't always get the biggest rep for that. Now, granted, obviously, we just talked about Ohio State, and Ohio State's put some corners into the NFL that have been very good. Michigan, you think about Charles Woodson kind of guys they've had. The thing about him that I like is, and this is the thing that says the most to me, junior and senior year, all Big Ten, first team.
Yeah.
First team recognition 2 years in a row. That is something for me. Because you know what? Even though those can be a little bit of a popularity contest, what it also means is something you keep repeating over and over again, which is important, popping up on tape.
Yeah.
This kid pops up on tape.
He had, I'm not looking at tackles so much because he's a corner, and he's a lot of the things that you see out of him. He's shorter, but he's a strong kid that, he's good at press. He likes to get up and be, he's small, so he wants to get in the face and be scrappy right at the line rather than have someone that has the size and athleticism take advantage of that, further down the field. But he had 3 picks this past year. He had 10 passes defensed. Okay, so as a corner, a pass defense could just be, swatting that bitch. I like that. Yeah. I mean, he might be little, but he's got ball skills.
Well, according to this, because, he didn't run a 40 time, but, he's not known for being a speed guy. He could end up, and they talk about this on the combine stuff, but I could see it just given the size, can be a slot corner, a nickel corner. But the thing about those is if you look at them, it's very hard to project guys into that role ever. Like, guys just kind of become good at it because you got to be good in space. You have to be willing to be facing the quarterback, looking at the quarterback a lot because, you're jumping routes. You've got to be a sure tackler because guys are flying across the middle. You got to have a good recognition and instincts.
And, I mean, if his skills are better at press man,
Mm-hmm.
it's harder to do that with in the slot because you
Yep.
got slot receivers that move around so much.
Yeah, you're chasing
You
them.
know that you're following around. It's hard to just get right up in their face. Whereas the guys on the boundaries, even if they do move, they're still pretty much on the line. I mean, the
Yeah.
slot guys backed off the line a little bit.
But that position has become more and more valuable in the NFL. But it's interesting, like when I think about teams and their nickels and some of the best nickels, they're not the big names, but there's guys that like carve out a niche there. I think that's something he would have to develop. His size would be tough on the outside, and given the fact that they don't rate him with high end speed, it's just. I mean, you look at the guys you got to run with in the NFL.
I know.
It is tough.
I'm curious though. I you know what? He's going to get drafted. It's going to be probably last round or next to last, and that's why I'm saying I want to know, like, is this guy even that late worth it? You know, he could be a good value. I said, you mentioned it. There's something to that for me.
Any
that he
5
has
through
earned those
7 round.
accolades.
Yeah, no, that's impressive. But anything drafted in 5 through 7
we're
that
not
can
talking
turn
about
into
third or second, like you said, 2 years in a row, first team,
junior year and senior
Wow.
year. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, you told me.
Because
something.
remember, like last
you know
year,
what? You told me.
he's
I don't
playing
care
he's
what.
playing opposite Akuda. You know, like Akuda's probably going to be your other guy. So it's I mean, that's
No, he's not playing. He's at Michigan.
No. But my point is, like,
for
the honors, he's got
he's
a
got
matchup
Akuda
against
on the other
this
side.
year,
Yeah.
you know?
So I mean, look, I don't care. Fans love you, but this is that's real stuff. I could hear that alone, and that tells me something.
Yeah.
Enough said. In terms of a 7th round pick, and you might have a toss up between a handful of these guys. That right there stands out to me. Next guy, Mount Laurel, New Jersey, redshirt senior, cornerback for the Penn State Nittany Lions, Mr. John Reed, 5'10", $187, 30 and an eighth on the arms, 9.5 in the hands, ran a 4.49 at the combine. That's very nice, but he is a corner. 20 reps on the bench. That's very nice. 36.5 on the vert, 129 on the broad. Anything over a 36 is pretty nice on the vertical and on the broad. You probably want to see it be about 127 or more. I mean, these kids are freaks nowadays, but definitely over 120. 129 is good. Late round projection, but this is, another guy on that fast defense in the Big Ten. And, I see a comp here to Grant Haley. Grant Haley is plays for the is a cornerback for the Giants. I think he's definitely second string, but he's gotten some starts. He's at Ole Miss. He actually a guy I worked with at iHeartMedia is like best friends with him, with Grant Haley, because he's like, I'm going to a Giants game this year. I was like, you want my tickets? He's like, I'm going to see Grant. So and he's actually turned out to be, he's not shut down, but a very productive quarter. Very good tackler. So, I don't know a ton about Reed. How about you?
No, I mean, I look at him, and I guess I always look now, like, it seems like 6 foot's the measure to play outside these days.
Yep.
It just is. Guys have just gotten so big now, and their athleticism is there. Again, I look at this guy, and I say, can he cover in the slot? And again, those are hard positions to project to. Because I go look around and I say, nobody that I think of was ever drafted to be that guy. Like they just kind of become that guy because they have instincts and they play a certain way. Is this the kind of guy that can do it? Now, this is a guy that didn't put up the stats that like the guy we just talked about in Hill. So, but he actually projects higher according to the combine, which is kind of interesting to me. Mount Laurel, New Jersey was next to the town that I lived in, if you want some extra little worthless information.
Yeah.
I got that for you.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah, I mean, he had 8 passes defensed, one sack, 2 picks, so yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I don't know. I like this Lavert Hill kid, late round pickup. Let's talk about one more guy, and there's outside of that, there's one other guy outside of this, and I'll drop his name, but you got a kid from here in Atlanta, a senior for the Golden Gophers, had a very nice season. Mr. Chris Williamson at 6', 205. Well, I'll run some stats through. Let's see. He had only 3 passes defense this past year, 1 pick. So it looks like that 1 pick was a TD. 2.5 sacks, 56 tackles, 36 solo. A little more of the size, minimum size on the corner, as you had mentioned. But and this was a defense that I thought was pretty successful from what they had. Might be an undrafted free agent.
Yeah. This is going to be a kid, though. I don't see where he went to the combine. Do you have a combine on him?
No, I do not.
So
I don't
I'm
have a combine on
guessing
him.
he did not get invited.
No, he's maybe top 25 at best in terms of cornerbacks in this year's draft.
Yeah,
maybe.
I just think that not being invited hurts this year more than any other year for obvious reasons.
Yep.
And that might be his downfall. But again, you looked at a team that overperformed their expectations by a country mile, and
they were coached very well.
Yeah.
And if he was, you go talk to the coach, and if he says good things about him, then maybe you got something there.
Yep.
All right, the only other guy in the draft that I know of at cornerback in the Big Ten is Tino Ellis. He's 6'1", 196. He played for the Terps. Don't really know a whole lot. I knew a kid back in elementary school in New Jersey named Tino. Hey, Tino. Yo, Tino, get over here.
Wasn't there a Tino, a safety? Didn't his dad coach at Alabama? Tino
Barino? Hey, Mr. Tino. You got my Barino?
It was at Alabama. The guy was a safeties coach. I thought he was named
Tino Samuels. No. Tino Smith. Tito Jones.
No, it's an Italian name.
Tino Viducci.
It's driving me nuts.
Tino Testaverde. Okay.
I just looked up the state of Alabama. That's not going to help me find
That's fabulous. And we're done with the Big Ten. And we'll see you next time
on the gridiron.